this is so spectacularly beautiful.
Well, thank you. It's Grosso in Provence lavender, and the smells are just wonderful. When you come out in the morning, it's just unbelievable, and the bees all over. It's really quite nice. We're enjoying it. And this is echinacea in front of it, and as you know, echinacea is used as a medicinal herb. But I just love just to have it and cut it and leave it and bring it into my living room.
It is really, really beautiful, and the color combination is wonderful
Isn't that
too.
nice? Yes.
And I see you've got millions of bees. The bees are not hurting here.
No, the bumblebees. However, the honeybees are low. You do not see those too often.
Now, can you use any of these varieties that you have for cooking?
Yes, you can. You can use them as a little herb in a bag to put in with different things like herbes Provence, for instance. You could do that. And you can also put them into things like shortbread, just the little buds of flowers to give it a little flavor. So behind us here we have this beautiful lemon verbena that's all in bloom, and the smell on these are just fabulous. You can just Isn't that wonderful?
It is wonderful.
And I brewed up some tea for us for later that you can sample.
Oh, terrific.
And then we also have here the sages. We have culinary sage. We have a bergarten and a silver sage. And in last part of May, my husband cut it all the way back to it was like these little smaller round balls. And we came back 3 weeks later, it was humongous. And flowering and everything. So it's time to cut it back again. So the sages were used to begin with for digestion with all the fatty pork that people used to eat. This used to help break down the fat and help digest. So as with most herbs, they started out as medicinal herbs, and then they were brought to the kitchen and they were used that way.
So there are lots of different kinds of sages, and some of them are just really beautiful.
Yes, there's the pineapple sage. I have a little melon sage over here, and they have bright red flowers, not quite what you would think to have in the garden that would bloom like that with the sages. And we also have here like the tricolored sage and then the golden sage, which brings a lot of color into the garden.
I like them too. Next to my flowers, I intermingle those sages because they're just so pretty. And I also hope that they are repelling insects in some way.
Well, they do. A lot of the herbs do that. I have a curry plant here, which is not actually something you can use in the kitchen, but just the aroma and all will deter the mosquitoes and other insects.
So what's the difference between a spice and an herb?
Well, they're used interchangeably a lot. An herb is a non-woody type of a shrub, and we usually use the leaves, only the leaves, but as you know, a lot of times we use the flowers. And the spices are, and also that they grow into temperate zones like France and Italy and England, and whereas the spices are woody plants like the bark, and they use parts of the tree like the bark for cinnamon, and hard seeds like nutmeg and
Pepper.
Yes, all the seeds.
Bay leaf.
Right. So now actually the bay is actually an herb, but if you're using the hard parts, like a hard part of like the clove is actually a flower, part of the flower bud. So then there's the problem with some plants being both a spice and a seed. For instance, over the coriander, cilantro.
Yes.
Cilantro are the leaves. Use that as an herb. You dry the seed heads, and there you have the coriander, and that's the spice. And same with the dill. The dill seeds are also a spice, but the leaves are the herb part. So, and actually thinking about it, I would guess that the fennel, where you use the bulb or the root, would also be a spice, but then the leaves is the herb, and again the seed head would be the spice.
Okay. A little confusing, but not bad. I think you've cleared it up for me.
I think a lot of the scientists are even confused about it.
And what about the laurel that we use, bay laurel?
Bay laurel, that is an herb. That is the only laurel that is used in a culinary sense. And
so that's because we're using the leaf and not the bark.
Right.
And cinnamon is the bark of the tree, and that's why that's a spice. Okay, I think I'm getting the hang of it now.
Good. And there are a lot of things that are very confusing to the scientists and botanists. For instance, marjoram and oregano. A lot of things are called oregano because they smell like oregano. And so one of the things you want to make sure is when you buy the dried spice the dried herb of oregano, that is truly what you're getting. A lot of times you will get something called Mexican oregano, which is not a true oregano. And also there's a coleus that smells like oregano, but it definitely is not an oregano. So that's why I like to grow my own oregano. It's easy to dry if you want to. But it's usually around. I have so many varieties here. I have Sicilian, Greek, Italian, and this pretty orange, yellowy color over there that you don't need to dry it. I don't need to buy it in a jar.
And what's the difference in using it? I mean, how much fresh do you use in comparison? Like if I have a recipe and it says to use a teaspoon of dried, how much fresh do I use?
Well, you can go up to 3 times. I always double it. So if it says a tablespoon or a teaspoon, then I use 2 tablespoons or 2 teaspoons, and I always taste it. Because you don't, oregano especially, very strong, and you don't want to have something that overpowers your food at all. And you can always add more, but you can never take it out. So I always taste it, but never more than 3 times.
Never more than 3 times.
Yeah, particularly with oregano, I would just do it double. and that's marjoram is related, of course, to the oregano, and it is much milder. It has a milder taste to it, but it's more tender. So in the winter you'll find this gone, and then in the spring it'll come back up again, whereas the oregano will just thrive because it is a hardier plant and a much more stronger taste. And I'm a little late on, well, this one here isn't too bad. What you want to do to make it more bushy is to cut the oregano and the marjoram down by half just before the flowers bloom. That's so the oils will come up and it's a little stronger in the summertime. So that's the time you want to cut back your oregano and marjoram if you want to keep it, or if, just like me, you just want to decide the flowers, and that's fine. Because I kept a flowering one over there so that we can see that.
And there are actually some oreganos that are grown just for their beauty of their flowers, too.
Yes, there is. In fact, I do have some. One is called a dittany, and I have that, and it's very pretty. It hangs like little chains coming down. It's a very ornamental looking plant. The oregano is, they like, as most herbs do here, they're from the Mediterranean, and they like hot weather, and they like not to be over water and good soil, but they're pretty easy to grow.
What I understand too with a lot of the herbs is that you want to get those essential oils accumulating, and so you don't want to fertilize them because then they'll grow too fast. Right. They won't have the time to develop the essential oils.
Right.
And also, I read that if you cut them in the morning, they still have the most concentrated amount of essential oil.
That's correct. Yes, that's right. The best time to cut any of the herbs, and especially the lavender, is in the morning. because of the reasons you just said, with the oils. Right?
And one of the things that they do, which I thought was interesting, was that they use their essential oils to cool themselves down. So that's why if you're picking them in the afternoon, they've already evaporated some of those essential oils.
That's right. I like to put in some edible little flowers, and I have some little gem marigolds, the bright orange and the little yellow ones, and they belong to the marigold family, and they also keep away the bugs and insects that tend to plague your garden. And those are fun to put in, along with the calendulas, which is
this is a pretty variety.
Isn't this pretty?
Yes.
There are several different kinds now and varieties, and we have yellow and orange ones, and they just reseed themselves, and I'm always pulling them out because they tend to overseed themselves.
Save some for me.
That is easy to do. And I like to use the calendulas for the flowers, for in salads and that sort of thing. But that they are being used a lot now for cosmetic use, because they're very good for your skin, for healing of the skin.
And actually they're really good for bacteria too. They use them now in deodorants, because what causes the smell on your skin is actually the bacteria on your skin. And so if you apply the calendula, it comes in a cream form. What it does, it doesn't mask any odor. It just kills the bacteria.
Very good.
And is this a mint?
No, that's a lemon balm. And as with most lemon balms in this area, yes, and it smells nice. It's very susceptible to mold, because of it's not hot enough here. So, but this one seems to be quite good, and I cut it back because it had already it began to flower, so I did cut it back. So it's all this nice new green growth coming up now.
What I understand, though, is there are some herbs that will do okay in the shade. You don't have to have total sun.
Right, and this
for
is
all
one
herbs.
of them. This one does well in partial shade or sun.
I know I have some oreganos just kind of wending their way through, and I don't use them for anything, but they're taking the place of weeds, so
well, that's good. It'll be very aromatic too.
Yes. And I've noticed also you have here dianthus pinks, and these are edible too, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They are. I just bought this, so what I like to do is after they bloom, I cut it back, and then new flowers will come up, and that way I know for sure that they do not have any like insecticides or fertilizer in them, because I like my
of course
flowers,
I didn't think of that.
The edible flowers, yes. I always wait for a little while. I don't bring it home and start picking it and putting it into the salads.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yes. Okay, now this is interesting. This, they have it labeled as Mexican tarragon, but it's actually a sweet tarragon. A sweet tarragon. And if it was a Mexican tarragon, it would grow to 6 feet. So you have to be careful about the labels. And this Mexican tarragon it could be used in place of French tarragon. It has the same smell, but it does not belong to the same family as the tarragon. Very similar to what we're talking about with the oreganos. So you have to know what this is going to be and how high. You don't want something that's going to be 6 feet tall, 3 feet wide here, particularly. So you do have to kind of know about some of the herbs and their names. Just like calendulas are called pot marigolds, but they're not a marigold at all. And here we have dill, as we talked about, both a spice and an herb. And they don't like to be replanted or repotted. They're easy to grow by seed, and it's much better. They take a long time to get their roots in if you just plant them like with a small little plant, and dig it in. It's best to do it by seed. And there are different varieties of dill. Some are big and bushy, and some are small and dainty.
I've also heard that sometimes it's good to plant your dill around your beans and different plants because they will attract the bugs, and so your crops that you want to eat won't get the bugs.
That's right. That's right. And I found that a lot of things that you like to eat with the herb, like beans and dill. Beans, and I also have a savory plant that savory likes to be cooked with the beans. That's very true. And basil and tomatoes, they make great companion plants. Then over here we have an angelica, and this is used for the seeds, and the stems and the root are used for liqueur, angelica liqueur, and for other liqueurs also, and also to be candied for like a candy. Actually, they cut the stem into little pieces like celery.
Okay.
And then what they do is they candy it. And I've never seen that, but they keep on talking about that. So one of these days maybe I'll try it.
It's really pretty.
It is. It's a very pretty plant. It usually gets a little higher. This is a different variety. It's very shiny leaves. You may not have seen this one around. And it has a big seed head. And over here we have the fennel, which is from Italy. And actually, it was spread to other countries by the Romans during their war expeditions.
And fennel can spread itself quite well,
yes,
can't it?
Yes, it doesn't take a Roman to have have that spread. No. And of course, you dig up the bulb and you cook that. And I often use the leaves for in butters and that sort of thing. Put it on top of some meats and cook it also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Very nice.
It's great with grilling.
Yes.
Yeah. Fish, wonderful.
Yes. Oh, and here is our savory that I mentioned, is with the beans, and that's a winter savory. So this will be here all winter. And it tastes the same as summer, but summer savory will disappear. Yeah, it's an annual. Mm-hmm.
So is this annual or is this perennial?
It's supposed to be perennial, so I expect to see it next year. So we'll see what kind of a climate we have this winter, if it'll come up. And here is our French tarragon. It's in a pot because I don't like to overwater it, so we have a water system in here. Mm-hmm. So I just, soak it every once in a while. It's actually from Russia, Siberia area, and in the Asian countries, but the French has really stepped up to the plate with this French tarragon, and they've done a lot of things with that. Vinegars, and they put them into a lot of their sauces and that sort of thing.
Have you done that? Have you made your own flavored vinegars?
I've done lots of vinegars, yes. I used to do that a lot, and it's a fun thing to do.
How long does it take for the vinegar to get flavored?
A couple of weeks, not very long. It depends on how many herbs that you put inside the bottles too.
Do you use white vinegar or apple cider or just wine?
Yes, I use rice vinegar.
Ah, rice.
Yes, I think it's less acidic tasting than the others. And this is going to flower, as you see. So these all needs to be cut back.
I see. Uh-huh.
But actually, this is old enough now. I'm going to take it all out of this pot and separate it, and put in new dirt and give it a new little life.
So you're going to divide it?
I can, yes.
Ah,
mm-hmm.
Interesting. So what do you like to make with tarragon?
Mainly the vinegars and salad dressings. Yeah, the salad dressings are really good.
I like it with fish.
Yeah, my husband is not of tarragon because it's licorice. The licorice taste is not everybody's taste. So it doesn't get a lot of use here, but I love it.
But it would make great gifts to give people.
Oh, yes. That's what I used to do. And next to it is our poor little parsley. This is the second year, and they usually only grow for 2 years. And it has been going to seed. I keep on cutting it back, but it just wants to go to seed constantly. So I don't know if it's not been enough heat this year, or it's just not a very happy plant this year.
Now this is Italian parsley.
Yes, Italian parsley has a better flavor, a more distinct flavor than the curly parsley, which you see as a little
Garnish.
Yes. And parsley is really quite a wonderful herb. It has more iron in it than any other vegetable. I bet you didn't know that.
No.
We all know it has vitamin C and the chlorophyll. That's why you like to have it as a garnish, because you can just chew on it. But it's sometimes not the easiest plant to grow.
Now I've let mine go to seed and just kind of let it have its way, so it's sprinkled all over my yard.
That's really good. Yours might, you have a lot more than I have then this year. As you can tell, I've been cutting it back. There's new growth here, so I still have hope that it might come back. And then over here we have something different, which is Chinese cilantro. And I've tried it in a few little stir-fry dishes, and it's an interesting little herb.
This is the perennial, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This is unlike the regular cilantro, which is an annual.
Well, I don't think it's even, well, they call it Vietnamese cilantro, but it is different. You can see the leaves are entirely different than the regular cilantro, which is also called Chinese cilantro.
Or Chinese parsley.
Chinese parsley, yes, lots of names for these plants. It's a wonder we get everything straight. So, but some of this basil comes in beautiful colors. I love this with the red. And there's also a light one called Reuben that I used to make a lot of vinegar with that because it's sort of a rosy color. Very nice. And here we have the basil. That's the Italian plant. And it likes the heat, and it likes a good porous soil, and of course not a lot of fertilizer, of course. Now notice the new little brackets here. There's going to be into flowers. When I see those, I just pinch those off, because if you let it flower, what it will do, the plant will dry up and die. So we want to keep on picking those little flower heads. It always smells so wonderful. I love basil. It's my favorite plant. And this, with basil, you can harvest it anytime once it gets, up to where you can cut it. And I like to make a lot of pesto, which is a wonderful way of using this, or just is great with tomatoes.
The tomatoes and mozzarella.
Yes, that's very good.
It's a great, really easy appetizer to make, and it wows everybody.
Yeah, it makes a nice salad. We use it as a salad. In fact, we're going to have that tonight. And there's different kinds of flavors. There's cinnamon. This is a licorice one. There's just the regular basil. Like I said, it comes in different colors too. So it's a wonderful plant. It just needs some sun. So usually these plants are much bigger. They're 2-3 feet high and big and bushy. But I'm just happy that I have some this year. And so on to the cilantro here. Remember, it was both herb and spice.
Yes.
I keep this in flower because I'm going to harvest the seeds so I can plant them next year. Now, also what I can do with the seeds is lightly roast them and use them in breads, or
well, it's used a
seeds
lot
in
in
different things.
curry.
That's true.
So it's really good in Indian food.
That's right. It's
and it has kind of a little citrusy almost flavor to the coriander.
I think so.
Yeah, it does. And so you can put it in a lot of baked goods, and it gives it the kind of aroma nobody knows what it is that you put in there, but it's special.
It's special. That's true. And several, the Mexican dishes, Asian dishes, it's a wonderful, versatile plant.
And you can still use it like this. In fact, I just made a cilantro pesto with mine are bolted like this, and so I just cut off a lot of it and put it in my blender and put it in with a friend of mine. Actually, I should credit him, Paul, gave me this recipe, and to put a little jalapeno pepper in there and olive oil. You can or you can't use nuts. It doesn't really make a difference, but you make it kind of really spicy hot with a lot of garlic, the jalapeno and this, and mix it in with your rice.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, and some chicken, and it's just to die for delicious.
Sounds wonderful. And this is the ornamental oregano I was telling you about, with the little bracts, how pretty they are. And I think you said that you have one that's similar to this.
And mine's a little pinker, and it's called Kent's Beauty, and I have it in my window boxes, and it's cascading over.
Oh, okay. I think this might be a Kent's Beauty, and a Ditton, but it belongs to the Dittany group. And then we were talking about thymes, and this is a lemon thyme, which is wonderful. Look at the pretty flowers on it. And it smells just like very lemony. And we have the other usual regular thyme, and there's a silver thyme. They come in different colors, different beautiful colored blossoms. Very easy to grow. And it also has has an oil in it called a thymal oil, and it was used for antiseptic use for the during World War I. So again, medicinal, starts as medicinal, ends up in our kitchen.
But also, the interesting thing that I read about lemon thyme is that it's been proven scientifically to be 62% as effective as DEET for mosquito prevention. So you can rub it on your skin or plant it around where you want to sit. You have to remember that if someone is allergic to bees or wasps, maybe you don't want too many flowering things around.
Right.
But you can use the leaves and rub them on before you go out and garden.
Same with lavender. Lavender is also used in one of the other organic mosquito repellents, which I use a lot.
Oh, and one thing we forgot to say too is echinacea, or chrysanthemums is pyrethrum.
That's right.
And so pyrethrum is one of those natural pesticides that they use, and yet you can grow it in your garden. It's beautiful, and it looks like a daisy.
That's true. And back to the thyme, we do have ground cover thyme. Now, I would not use that with culinary use. It does not have the flavor like the regular thyme does, the French thyme and the English thyme.
But it does cover beautifully.
Doesn't it, though? It's wonderful. It's great ground cover, and it grows so quickly.
I see you have this scented geranium in a pot. Do you take it inside in the wintertime?
Yes, I do, because it is very
Tender,
yes. And so you do want to bring it inside or take cuttings, and do that. I love this one. The flowers you can, of course, put into your usual little fruit salads, and also they're edible. And the leaves, I like to put them in the bottom of a cake pan, and if you just use plain vanilla cake, you'll get this wonderful aroma of whatever the leaf is. This one here is sort of like a lemon rose, which is really neat. And you can, of course, use the flowers to decorate cakes. Actually, any flower, because we've done that before with roses, putting roses on cakes. Very lovely.
Wow, what a beautiful table, Phyllis.
Thank you. These are some of the herbs that we were talking about today, and some of the things you can do with them in the kitchen.
What do we have in here, Phyllis?
A very simple salad with just some little pansies, little violas in there, with little goat cheese if you wanted to.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, Phyllis, are these borage?
Yes. Remember I showed you the plant that was growing? This is the borage flowers, and you can put them in your little ice cube tray and make ice cubes. And
that's darling.
And here we have a lemon verbena tea that I just brewed this afternoon, just for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you have some, looks like cheeses and crackers.
This one here is herbed butter, and I just go through the herb garden and cut just little bits of everything, and I mix it up with little lemon juice and softened butter, and there you are. It's great on cooked vegetables or crackers or breads or whatever.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's just very simple to do. And the other is this is goat cheese and cream cheese mixed together with, again, the same things. I also put in some edible flowers, and you can do just so many things with that, with dips and vegetables and crackers.
So are these calendulas, a little
Yeah,
orange?
there's calendulas and there's nasturtiums and basils, different colored basils that we talked about, and tarragon, and just whatever is in your garden. That's an herb and edible.
Well, it's really festive and beautiful, and doesn't seem like it's too hard to do either.
No, it isn't. Very simple. You don't have to be a gourmet cook for that.
You also have all these pretty flowers here. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Certainly. These are the edible flowers, some of the ones that are in everybody's garden. Of course, all the herbs, their flowers are edible. We have fuchsias, which would be bright and colorful, I think, in a salad. And daylilies, which are not a true lily. So we don't want to eat a lily because those are not edible. But the daylilies are, and also nasturtiums, which you can do so many things with. You can use the leaves. You can put maybe one of those herbed cheeses and roll this up like a little cigar. You can put guacamole in the middle of the nasturtiums and serve them as a little appetizer. And also their seeds, you can brine them. They'd be like little capers. And then we have roses, which I considered an herb because you can use roses with their rose hips. You can use their petals. And what I always want to do is always cut the little stamens and pistils off because someone may be allergic to the pollen. And you want to wash the flowers and dry them before you use them. And of course, there's always the cute little pansies, which are always so cute in a salad or whatever you want to put them, or just even on a plate. It's kind of nice, just instead of your parsley garnish, put a flower garnish. So here's to the best part of gardening with herbs.